All right, guys, welcome. It's Full Auto Season 2, Episode 1. And yes, you are still waiting for the package of Season 1 to come out. Stay tuned, it's coming out. But really cool guest here today, a former Haggerty star. Really interesting story. If you know Haggerty, you know they take care of all things collectible. Cars, auto-related collections are one of their primary focuses. And this is Adam Martin. Adam's going to tell us a bit about himself, what he did with Haggerty, what he's doing now. We're going to talk a lot of cool stuff today, collection-wise, travel-wise, and I'm all decked out in orange. Adam, as you see, there's an orange and orange juice behind me. It's an orange day here in the studio. We're awaiting a big delivery. We'll talk about that as we go. But Adam, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us an intro, and we'll jump in.
Yeah, well, gosh, thank you for having me, Bruce. It's a pleasure to be here and have a fun car guy chat with you.
Yeah.
I seem to have a lot of chats with car guys, and that's one thing that I love about my profession. Quickly, I grew up in a car family, in a car neighborhood, getting a chance to work on cars in my friends, garages, and that kind of stirred up an interest in mechanical things, and that led me into finding and buying my first car, a '68 Camaro, which I still have to this day. My little project car that I restored in the garage at home with my dad. And
I was born in '68. We live not too far from each other. You need to come see that. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Cars always stimulate great little memories and anecdotes like that. So it's perfect. That car kind of brought me into this universe of the collector car space. I had no idea as a high schooler how big the collector car industry really is. And that really didn't come into total vision until I found and discovered McPherson College in McPherson, Kansas, which is the only automotive restoration school in the country that's going to give you an accredited degree in learning how and to restore cars. So I took a tour, fell in love with this place, and thought this is where I'm meant to be. Not thinking I wasn't really an academic in high school. I was took all my auto shop classes and excelled everything there. And once I found McPherson, I kind of found a path that had some light at the end of the tunnel, even though I didn't know where it was going. But through that experience at McPherson College and learning how to take cars apart, restore them, learn about the size of the industry, and then my various summer internships at different automotive restoration shops, and then meeting all of these people that I read about or I saw on TV, it just kind of brought it all together. And that's where I met McKeel Haggerty and several other people from Haggerty Insurance. And after graduating McPherson College, I was recruited by McKeel up to Traverse City, Michigan, and received a wonderful sort of master's degree on top of my bachelor's from McPherson College about the collector car space, adding to my automotive knowledge and my hands-on skills. Now I had this business and this insurance component to bring into my world and to help all my friends and my customers with Haggerty. And that kind of brings me to my present day today, which is having my own insurance agency where I can solve those car guy problems for car collectors and be there kind of the quarterback and look after everything that they love and enjoy, whether it's their cars, their watches, their airplanes, the art collection. I can be their one-stop shop.
We have some of all that here in my office. There's cars up here in the window, cool collector car stuff, and some art on the walls. And so we're in the same space. And we first ran into each other, interestingly enough, though we live in a similar geographic region. We ran into each other at a car event at a track where races were going on, and there was a car show going on as well. And we stumbled on each other through mutual contacts and had a fascinating conversation. But I wanted to press the pause button and go back to that '68 Camaro for a couple of reasons, because it's so interesting to me. I always ask people how, if they're collection builders, whether it's watches or art or cars or bikes or whatever, what was the first hook for you? And you kind of told us. When did you get that '68? Were you in high school? Was it later on, or?
Yeah, great question, and I love your choice of words, calling you a builder of a car collection. I hadn't thought about that, but I ask similar questions in my day to day.
Yeah.
But for me with the Camaro, my dad told stories. He had a '69 Camaro when he was growing up, and
Okay.
so he had a '61 Corvette in the garage that we would take out for a drive. So I was kind of born in the Chevy family, and
We.
that's just kind of what I got spoon fed. And
Yeah.
so I found this Camaro. I bought it when I was 15. My dad had to drive it home from the seller's house, and the speedometer cable, broke mid drive home when I thought the world ended. I'm like,
Right.
what, this doesn't happen. We just bought it.
Right.
It should break. I should have known because it was covered in primer. I bought a project
Okay.
car, but I could drive it home. But that certainly was the hook, listening to my dad and just
Yeah.
neighborhood friends. They all kind of had muscle cars, so that was the introduction for me.
Same for me. That's so interesting. We have such similar backgrounds. So my first car I got when I was 15. I grew up in a car family as well. My grandfather ran a Jag and Land Rover dealership. Well, and prior to that, it was just British cars in general, MGs, Triumphs. And when I was 15, my first car back then, you could get a license in Louisiana when you were 15.
Yep.
So actually, I guess he gave it to me for my 16th birthday. Fully restored 72 Triumph Spitfire, British racing green, convertible, totally redone. And I mean, that's it. Totally the hook was in, right?
Absolutely.
And
That's it deep.
I wish I still had that car, So and I see him from time to time. I follow some British sports car, pages on social media, and occasionally
Yeah.
I'll see a British racing green Spitfire. And I'm like, oh, how I wish I had that car back, you know. So that's really
I
interesting,
Yeah, I hear a lot of seller's remorse,
right?
and I also get a lot of attaboys for hanging on to the first car
That's
or the
amazing,
first couple of cars. So yeah, but that's life. That's the joy, the evolution of curating and building your car collection and
right?
learning what you like and don't like. I mean, it's what do you like wearing on your wrist? Is it heavy? Is it
Right,
too large? Can you fit your
right,
shirt cuff over it?
right.
Or do you just change your shirt cuff? With sports cars, I mean, oftentimes people don't fit in a great sports car. You might want a
So
Porsche
true.
911, but when you physically get inside, I mean, you might realize you're not comfortable, and that seat is made for somebody else. And
Yeah,
God, one of my favorite memories or like recognitions is early, Italian sports cars and others, of course, but like the pedals are not directly in front of you necessarily. They're offset a little bit because
right.
the driver's left front tire needs to be there, and the way the car was built. So, you and the steering wheel might be right in front, but your legs are kind of kicking out to the left. And,
Yeah,
you don't realize that until you actually get behind the wheel of a car. And that
right.
could be a turnoff for some people once they learn that, oh, this is the driver position for this great car that I've always loved from afar. Oh,
Yeah.
I might not want this.
On our Wealth Curated website right now, you'll see a 58 Resto mod that we have on consignment for a client, and
Yeah.
also have a 57 uh, full, complete, original restoration as well. It's not on the site, but will be.
Mhm.
And I talked to guys who just love those cars, but some
Mhm.
they just flat out they can't fit in it, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how car design has developed and changed and influenced buying patterns. It's one of the fascinating nuances to the market. It's really cool to look at.
Yeah, it's something to take into consideration, especially if you're a collector that wants to drive and enjoy your cars.
Right.
I love the driving experiences
Yeah.
that come with owning a great sports car, or when you receive an invitation to go on a driving tour because you're surrounded by like-minded cars and drivers, and you got a car suited for a certain set of roads. Like I want to go out and experience that together and
Yeah.
drive through life and see the trees go by the side windows
Right.
and live. And so I want my cars to
Yeah.
be functional. But then I've got an amazing group of people that I work with that are very Concours conscious. And
Right.
I mean, as an intern at the Petersen Museum, we were showing a car
Really.
at the Pebble Beach, and we were picking blades of grass out of the tires just to make sure the car showed as
Yeah.
best as it possibly could on the lawn of Pebble Beach. So
Yeah.
it you get to talk to all kinds of great people in the collector car space, and I kind of love playing Switzerland and a little bit of devil's advocate to
Yeah.
see what people are up to, and
Well,
you know
and
what
so
they
many
want up is great.
things, yeah, so many things motivate collectors, right? So
Oh yeah.
I'm more like you. I love the aesthetics. I think they're all pieces of art. They're pieces of history. And so I certainly appreciate the guy who's pulling blades of grass out of the rubber, right?
Yeah.
Because like a great painting that needs great presentation, that's really important.
Yeah.
But I prefer to be in and around cars and motorcycles that are driven. You know, I just think they ought to
Yeah.
be driven. We're taking taking in a cool collaboration piece today. Supposed to was supposed to be here earlier in the week. So I've been all week. I'm like distracted like a kid at Christmas, right?
Is it
Wondering
orange?
when this was going to show up. And then I was told it wasn't going to show up till Friday, and then got a call late yesterday and said, "Hey, it'll be there this afternoon." So, looking forward to taking this bike in. But I'm a big guy on what I call benchmark
Okay.
assets in the collector space. So, a benchmark is something that has an important date attached to it, an important story, important timeline. Right. This is a 1989 FZR Yamaha. First year, you know, they were building this platform, and that year, 10 of 11 champions in the race schedule were riding this bike, right? So
Wow.
it has a really cool livery. It's really unique. I'm not going to unveil it yet. Just been giving people hints of the pictures. It's
Hmm.
orange and white, but I
Hmm.
haven't shown them all the full livery. It's unique. It's fun and different. But any of it. So as beautiful as the bike is and the restoration process that was done, and I mean it's totally stripped every nut and bolt and put back together and
All right.
powder
Frame off.
coated and painted, subframe, even down to the fairing stays, the whole deal, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be ridden. So yeah, I just
Excellent.
appreciate that process. So
Oh,
what's the
man.
difference in ensuring uh from your side of the business, what's the
Mhm.
difference in the insurance modeling for those that are going to be driven that have value and those that are going to be showpieces?
Great question. So these, the common denominator for automobiles, motorcycles, vintage tractors, military equipment is they were born and created to be an automobile and to be a piece of transportation. So if you are going to title and register and use that mode of transportation, you're opening yourself up to a requirement for insurance. So we're all expected to have liability auto insurance if we're going to drive a car on the public street and have turn signals and headlights and a horn and bumpers and things like that. So there's always a common denominator. It is still an automobile, a motorcycle, and so the insurance is going to be there to, well, provide the liability so you can drive it on the street. And then the next question comes into the value of that artifact, that car, that vintage bike with history. So the this is where the collector car insurance comes in, which is different from your standard auto policy. Standard auto being the car you drive every day, running errands, going to work. You're going
Right,
to call up a big box insurance company, Geico, State Farm, Farmers, those brand names.
right.
When you have a collectible, valuable item that appreciates in valuable, this could be the Corvettes on your website, the
Okay.
motorcycle coming in. This could be the Aston Martin DB9 in your garage that, was your old daily driver. You just haven't gotten rid of it yet because you like it. Those modern sports cars and even vintage race cars are collectible because they have this appreciation to it and they're unique and not used every day. So you want to take those important assets and put them on a collector car based insurance policy that recognizes there is value in that sculpture, that hunk of metal, that
Right.
beautiful work of art,
Yeah.
whether you drive it on the street or not. So this comes into the valuation. And this you just kind of described on it in terms of its provenance in this motorcycle.
Right.
Who raced it? What livery? What sponsors? What races did it win? How many? Where does it sit in that
Right.
flight
Yeah.
of comparable motorcycles?
Yeah.
So to kind of like round this out, I look at, it's an automobile. We need to insure it, and then the next step is that's the physical damage and insuring that item for its value. that would make you whole again if you should ever have a total loss. And that's the important thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's a fascinating process, I'm sure, that you go through with your clients, because they may have a different idea. They may have paid X dollars and then may have put X dollars in a restoration, right? And
Very common.
so their idea of the value may be a little bit different than the market standard from your vantage point. So how do you arrive at a symbiotic view of a car? Let's say a guy bought something, a barn find, and did a full restoration, right? How do you meet together and value that and ensure that appropriately?
Yeah, that actually happens quite a bit. And I think it's a wonderful evolution of the collector car industry. And it describes how the industry is maturing and recognizing, that it's fun to restore old cars and that there's value in it. I mean, we've been restoring and fixing up antiques and homes and old barns for a lot longer than we have collector cars.
Right.
And so I'm not sure if it's inherent in human nature, but like, I surely love working with my hands and kind of bringing something back to life and to be a part of that journey. And I mean, that's a whole nother digression. We can go down the life cycle of working on a car. But to answer your question, I mean, I do a lot of consulting with my clients, and as an agent, I help kind of be a sounding board, a confidential sounding board. I mean, everyone's going to talk to their friend group, but I can sometimes have a different level of conversation and really talk brass tacks with them. So it's looking at this particular barn find car, and you gotta, with cars and even motorcycles, what are you starting with? Is it a numbers matching car? Have you been able to authenticate it and decode everything?
Right.
Do you know what you're starting with? That's going to be a great basis of what to value it at, because we can go to the market, look at some comparables, auction results. Because of my network, I can talk to other car collectors, or we can start networking with some confidential and important people to arrive at maybe what the purchase price to be is. And then this is where it does get kind of gray. And maybe you're guilty of this. I know I'm guilty of it. When I get into a passion project, sometimes my rational brain goes out the window and I'm just writing checks because I need to see this project done and I need to see it right. And you can, honestly, you can get upside down in an automotive restoration project really quickly. So
happens all the time. But to hit the pause button to give listeners some sense of comfort and compass, you don't go into a restoration project with necessarily a valuation payoff in mind. You do it because you love it. And I tell collectors across every category, invest because it's what you love, and down the road, if it should pay off, that's fantastic. But that's secondary, right? It's all the stuff we've already talked about, the emotional stuff, the intangibles, the intellectual process, the artistic appreciation, the tie to a family lineage, and all those kinds of things that are more endemic to who we are as humans, built for story, so.
Totally agree. And I consult and work with, in my insurance agency, I can insure automotive restoration shops and classic car dealerships. So I have an ecosystem of clients, car collectors who want to find an ideal restorer, and I've got restoration shops looking for ideal customers. And to kind of circle back to like the pricing or expectations, some of the best restoration shops are really good at having that honest conversation with the client that, to take the car from where it is today in a bunch of these boxes to showing at the Corvette NCRS event or to show at Pebble Beach. We know what the finish line looks like, but we don't know how long it's going to take to get there, and we don't know how much it's going to cost. But if you've got expectations and the patience to go through the journey, I mean, what the finished product is going to be, and that should be the fulfillment. And yes, at the end of that journey, we do talk about valuations, and if your car does win Best to Show at Pebble Beach, if it is a first-in-class winner, those are those provenance milestones or benchmarks, as you called it, that go into the history of the car. So you may not realize a return on your restoration cost at the end of the restoration, you have to sell it, but maybe give
Right.
it 5, 10 years. And now you've been on magazine covers, you've shown in other
Yeah.
concours, and now there's a buzz around your car because of
Right.
the storytelling you've been able to do with it at these various concours, and maybe you made a
Yeah.
video that went along with the restoration. So it it's a unique kind of business and
Yeah,
space.
and if you have the passion, and this is a collector tip for free. Usually my clients pay for this sort of stuff. I'm sure yours do as well. But also, when you're going through that process, you just mentioned a timeline. If you're willing to hang on for the long term, you do something else. Number one, especially if you keep the car quiet, you don't always run out there and saying, "Yeah, maybe it's for sale," right? Because you can
Yeah.
overexpose any asset.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep it for the long term, you also give time for a comparables narrative to develop. Another car similar in quality and build may show up
Yep.
at an auction and trade for a ton of money.
Yeah.
That helps your car, right? So we have the resto mod on our website right now. In my very biased opinion, is better than the Kevin Hart car that he paid 800 grand for almost 2 years
Yeah.
ago, right? But
Sure.
ours is a lot less money, but but it gives strength, to what you are asking when a car like that trades at a Mecombs or somewhere else, So
Absolutely right. You need that comparable, that benchmark
yeah,
to weigh and measure what you have, and we do a lot of that. I think the Porsche community, the car clubs do a great job of self-policing and but
yeah,
making information accessible. The production numbers, what does numbers matching mean for Porsche people versus Corvette or Mustang people? You
yeah,
really have to narrow into that niche to understand what is important that makes a Shelby Mustang more collectible than just a notchback 65 Mustang.
right,
You gotta be that expert, and then yes, you do need to see with time if you have the rare Shelby R model they made, I think 29 ish. Might want to see a couple of those sell to
yeah.
establish a recent benchmark to compare your cars to.
Yeah, since you bring up Mustangs, in our last season, we had Donald Farr on, and I've known Donald Farr for quite a while. He's the Mustang guy, right?
Yes.
And so if you guys need Mustang connection, talk to us because we know the guy. So let's move on to some of the collaborative stuff that we have talked about. We have
Yeah.
share common interests, we have common clients, and one of the things that we've alluded to already is that serious car collectors are very passionate about their collections, right? I did a big
Yeah.
study when I was with another company years ago, investigating, going really deep dive into the collector mind. What we found is that the average serious collector with resources invests really passionate in about three things, give or take, right? Car guys, they tend to like one particular kind of car typically. And
Yep.
so the Ferrari guys are really passionate about that. Porsche clubs, they're maybe the biggest, right?
Sure.
In terms of activities. Then you got the muscle car guys. But you and I are sort of talking about putting together some passion-based themed car collector travel that
Hmm.
can take people to Europe and see the best museums, drive the best cars on tracks, do some exotic stuff. But tell me about some of the expectations when those kind of people travel, what they want to see, what their hopes are, and what they're looking for in a car collector travel experience.
Sure. There's, car collectors are very well traveled because they're already going to car shows or driving tours. More often than not, they're, successful in business in many shape or form. So they're traveling, they understand what their favorite airline is, their favorite hotel brand. They might have their
Yeah,
favorite piece of luggage and their everyday carry kit.
right.
And so when they are traveling, I find that they want to be very time conscious. And when they travel, they want ease, they want first class service, looking at just attention to details, easy check in. But I want to get to my destination. I want to sort of relax. I might need to acclimate to the new time zone. I might need my favorite cup of coffee. But it's then the immersion and sort of being able to detach from the world. I'm with a
Right.
safe group of people. I've got a
Yeah.
guide or a host, or I've got the motor coach that's going to take us from place to place. So I'm not worrying about how to drive there, because that's not what my experience is about on this
Right.
particular trip. I'm going for immersion. I'm looking forward to this curator giving us a tour of this collection, because like me as a kid, I've always heard about this collection, or I wanted to see this painting because I
Yeah.
love their style. So I think it's immediacy, it's action, and being able to get kind of behind closed doors. I mean, I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love, when I was an intern and actually had an office at the Petersen Museum, I got to give a lot of private tours to a lot of people, down through the vault before it
Yeah.
was sort of public today.
I love the vault. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much fun to, I love the behind the scenes,
Right.
and those are the experiences that I look for,
Yeah.
and I like the access, because of our peer group allows us to get into that. And I use I sorry to keep talking about the Petersen Automotive
Yeah.
Museum.
No, it's good.
It's a major component in my life. And so today I sit on the executive committee of the Checkered Flag 200, which
Ah,
is
okay.
the sort of the top premium membership package that
Yeah.
supports the Petersen Museum.
Yeah.
And the Checkered Flag 200 has organized these garage tours, and I've helped organize
Right.
them in the past. And because of the members of the Checkered Flag 200, we get access to great car collections that, Joe, other car collector enthusiasts, doesn't get access to because they're not a member yet of that
Right.
car club, or they hadn't learned that this Checkered Flag 200 exists.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the curated life, the collectors, art collectors, wine collectors, when you start sharing and talking, that's when these warm introductions, and invitations open up to go see unique places and have these
Yeah.
experiences you never knew you wanted, but you're grateful that you have them, after experiencing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And the other part of it is, aside from the travel, people love to travel. If you're a serious car collector with resources, it gives you the opportunity to see the epitome of examples
Hmm.
that you're passionate about, right? So it inspires creativity, inspires more overspending on your project, and
Yeah.
all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
didn't realize we both had the Peterson connection. So one of the other hats I wear is as an executive producer for films and TV. And one of the things we do called Driven TV, where we just tell cool automotive stories. Last season, which was season 4, we went out and did an entire episode on the Peterson.
Oh,
If
yes.
you haven't seen that, I'll have to send it to you.
Yes. I'd love
It
to
was
see it.
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man,
So
it's great. I'd love to see it.
yeah, let's talk valuations a little bit and the impact of COVID
Sure.
in the collector car world. So
Yeah.
COVID was interesting in that everybody got locked down, and so in those first 6 months, 10 months or so, you saw sort of buying get real quiet, but then it exploded because people realized, hey, this is going to be long term. I'm not going to be locked inside. So then you
Yeah.
started to see collector money coming after cars, bikes, art, everything, right? So
Absolutely.
we're in a little different world now. How have you seen COVID impact early on? How has it changed? And I know this is an important question for you because you were seminal in building the valuation tool for Haggerty, right?
Yeah. Yep. I was a part of the team at Haggerty called the Haggerty Institute, and we developed the Haggerty Price Guide in conjunction with some consultants, Dave Kenny, an appraiser, and also built the VIN decoder. So, as you know, cars built before 1981 have less than 17-digit VINs, so it's hard to look up information. So we kind of aggregated all that data, and produced the price guide and a search engine to help Haggerty's insurance customers find, or get an estimate on what their car is worth to initiate the conversation.
Yeah.
But with COVID, and what that did was, at first nobody knew what to make of this. How long are we going to be
Yeah.
on lockdown? And I
Yeah.
think by month 3 or 4, at least in my experience,
Yeah.
I started receiving all these invitations for Zoom calls like this, and it was a
Yeah.
Zoom chat with um, proactive car friends getting together and just talking cars. And then it matured into, all right, Joe, why don't you walk us around your collection today? And so there's literally, Joe's with his iPhone on Zoom, walking around and kind of pointing out each of his car. And,
Yeah,
it was great because everyone got to, sit at
very
home
cool.
and, get to
Very cool.
enjoy everyone's stuff. And so they're like, this just kind of boomed, and
Right.
it's still going on out there. But that, in my opinion, sort of stimulated this online um, outlet. And that's where the bring a trailer auctions, the other
Right.
online auctions,
Yeah.
collector car. I think
Yeah.
everyone had to change their buying habits. They couldn't
Yep.
go to a public live auction anymore. They
Right.
had to buy online, and they had this appetite and curiosity. And I think technology timing was ripe. And a lot of car guys got on their computers and phones and
Yeah.
started buying and enjoying and even
Yeah.
clearing out the garage. I
Oh
saw a
yeah.
lot of guys start purging stuff. They're like, you know
Yeah.
what? Reality just hit. I
Yeah.
am not going to get to this project,
Yeah.
and let's let it go. And I'm going to double down on what I already have. So, I mean, you can look at the numbers.
Interesting. Yeah.
COVID, helped the collector car space. I think it gave everyone a breather in many.
Collectibles overall. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I think now that we're back to going to live auctions,
Yeah.
uh, we're satisfying that human need for connection and
Yeah.
social interaction.
Yeah.
But I think it's left behind this need to or a new attitude or habit of going online, shopping online, researching online. And I know the online companies have
Sure.
also doubled down on that technology to
Yep.
make that user experience that much better.
Yep.
So COVID we've certainly seen a dip, but I would say it's helped the transaction of the collector car space very, very well.
Yeah. It's been fascinating to watch. I had a theory very early on in COVID that if this became a prolonged deal, you were going to see just what happened.
Huh?
That is, people with resources chasing beauty in the way that they do, with a much heightened fever, and we saw that. I mean, across every collector sector, baseball cards
Yeah,
turned around, art turned around, rare coins. It was amazing to see what happened, and
yeah,
I think it also changed sort of the attuneness to collector and investment mindset. Everybody sort of woke up and realized, hey, there's no guarantees that we're going to be here tomorrow or next year, right?
yeah,
Um, it's time to not be frivolous, but to embrace the journey that we're on, and present the best possible story I can build for my life. And we do
yeah,
that through our appreciation of collections. That's really what it's about.
yeah.
Sometimes people think it's just about, guys with various issues trying to build their toy collection, their trophy collection, but really it's about the story. It's about the human connection and all that. So
Yeah, and I think COVID really uh, provided a sense of urgency or a new call to action that yes, time is limited. I know I had friends and family, suffer during COVID and lost their lives, and I think it was just that call to action to recognize, our
yeah,
mortality and what we want to do with our time, what we enjoy most to do with our time. And like I said, that's when things came out of the garage, or that's
yeah,
when new acquisitions were coming in.
man,
And
yeah,
I saw a lot of people acquiring cars that were, race cars. There were sports cars that they can go do events with because
yeah,
bucket list just got more important, and those
right,
items ratcheted up that list that they want to go get after.
yeah. Well, listen, this has been a fascinating first discussion, and
Yeah,
I think we'll have many more, as we already shared with our listeners. We're going to be collaborating and some cool stuff, and so if you guys have the interest in collector insurance and providing for your future protection there, Adam is your guy. And stay tuned, because we're going to be putting together some really cool trips and other stuff. And I think you're going to be hearing a lot more from Adam on our podcast. So let's get together. I want to see the 68 Camaro.
yep,
I'll wheel by on the FZR,
there we
and
go.
I'm sure we'll be seeing each other at the track and other events. And Orange, you glad you joined us today? We
Today's
can't
the
wait
day.
till
I
this
can't wait.
afternoon. Yeah.
I can't wait.
All right, man. It's good to have you. Appreciate it. This has been Full Auto Season 2, Episode 1. Thanks, Adam. We'll do it again soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Bruce.
All right. Take care.
Mhm.